an individual.
I need you to determine where you want to go. Sometimes books are not sold. Sometimes books...
Good evening and welcome to Behind the Headlines. My name is Timothy Nyangweso. The conversation here has already started even before we even engage in it. But day one of the nominations is already on. 500 places and more being grabbed by the more than hundreds of aspirants that have turned into candidates. But when we look at it and look at the tensions that we expect, should we expect security to disturb them? Should we expect the candidates to be able to have resolve to go through this? But also no hiccups on day one. But the attrition rate for members of parliament, especially looking at the Afrobarometer report of 2022, shows it's about at 69%. What will it be for this 11th parliament? But also, biggest question, what awaits this 12th parliament in its making? We're making it, but shall Ugandans be hopeful, especially the different aspects that have been seen with the 11th parliament? Let me get to my panel that is with me in the studio to make sense of our discussion today. On my immediate left, Dr. Sarah Berete, the Executive Director for the Center for Constitutional Governance, is with us this evening. Good evening, Doctor, and it's good to have you.
Thank you, Timothy. Good evening, viewers and fellow panelists. It's always good to be back.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Next to Dr. Sarah is Council Benjamin Katana, the National Treasurer of the National Unity Platform. Good evening, sir, and it's good to have you.
Good evening, Timothy. It's always a great pleasure.
Making his maiden appearance here on the show, Gerard Werike Wanzala, who is a governance expert, a policy analyst at that, is with us this evening. Good evening, Doctor, and it's good to have you.
Good evening, our viewers. Good evening, fellow panelists. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you for agreeing
it's my maiden on this program.
Dr. Yusuf Serunkuma, a policy analyst, a researcher, but also you don't do any policy. Political analyst, we leave it at that. Good evening, Doctor, and it's good to have you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Lastly but not least, we have to even go to his flyer. Dr. Okida Patrick, who is an NRM flag bearer for Kaberewe constituency in Kibuku district. Good evening, Doctor, and it's good to have you.
Let me first correct you.
Kabweri
constituency.
Kabweri
constituency is found in Kibuku district, in Buked sub-region.
I will not say what you said off air. Who they are.
Buked sub-region
yes.
is found in the middle between Busoga and the Elgon sub-region.
Okay. Thank you for that correction. And the conversation is on our YouTube channel. Jump into it there. Let us know what you think. Also on our X handle, we're streaming live. We're also, you can text us or WhatsApp us on the to let us know what your thoughts are. Today has been successful all over the country. No hiccups anywhere, but also the EC has made it clear that the date for elections will be the 15th of January. And all candidates will start campaigning on the 10th of November. That means there'll be a beehive of activity across the country, both local councils, getting to members of parliament. The presidential candidates are already on the road. What does that make of our country, especially in the other aspects that we expect, the social and the economic? How does that affect it in one way or another? That's the conversation we're having today, but also we'll be looking at the hotspots and naming some of those, what we expect to be the outcomes of those areas, especially as you watch it in the news bulletin. Let me start with Yusuf. I've read 3 articles, but I'll get to those ones in a bit. One that you made very interesting submissions, especially about the movement system. But before I get to that, let's get to these nominations today. Are we just ticking a box?
I see.
Yusuf, that's you.
When I was looking around to see.
We only have one candidate.
Katna is not standing.
No.
Okay, I thought it was standing. And Sarah's not standing either.
No.
Maybe you're becoming a prophet.
No, but you know, to the point you asked, the question you asked me whether we're just ticking boxes. An earlier question I was responding to this morning was, do we expect so much from the 12th Parliament? the parliament, which is going to be sworn in early next year. And the straight answer is no, because if you want to reset this country, we'll have to deal with the only issue which we have for the last 20 years is Yoweri Museveni. And it's up to Museveni to decide how he wants this country to look like in the next 5 or the next 10 years. As long as he still has breath in his body and he still can talk and he's still interested in standing, he's the only issue we have to contend with. He decides. I said that he is the manifesto himself. The NRM doesn't have to present a manifesto. The manifesto is Yoweri Museveni. What he wants to be as regards the judicial system, our public education, our infrastructure, our fiscal policies, it is what he decides takes the day. So Parliament, I think we have a couple more constituencies being,
Yes.
starting this year. So it will grow as big as it can be. It will be as noisy and as exciting as it has always been. One of my most outstanding episodes of this outgoing Parliament is when the LOP then, Joel Senyonyi, was actually grilling of the current CEO of Uganda Airlines. It was a very exciting episode in our life. It was a leading story for, I think, 3 weeks in a row in all media outlets. She was exposed as incompetent to hold that office. She still is the CEO, right? And that summarizes what Parliament offers us: excitement, energy, noise, media coverage, endless debate, and what they nowadays say, exposure. But we have been exposed to Parliament and the failures of this government enough. So that's what we're going to have in the 12th Parliament: excitement, noise. We'll have a few. We'll have a majority NRM, constituency in Parliament. We'll have excitement from members of the opposition. We'll have a sizable opposition Parliament at the same time. And it's vibes. It's the excitement that you get from more exposure. It's like an exhibition. But what matters is what Museveni decides, because if he has a contentious issue, members of the NRM will be ferried to either Nakasero, rarely is it Nakasero, either Entebbe or Rachtura. Museveni tells them what they have to do the next day, and they will show up in Parliament and they will vote as he wants. And this we've seen for the last maybe 20 years, right? This we've seen for the last 20 years. So as a member of the Wananchi, if you want to reform this country, if you're looking towards reforming this country, there's only one issue. In fact, I don't know if you asked me about my Observer column this week. I'm really wondering how members of the leading opposition party lost their "we are removing a dictator" slogan to a calmer one, protest vote, right? Because for me, I think the genius of the opposition was the one issue manifesto: we're removing a dictator.
Then what?
And then we can think about this country afresh. That was the mandate then, and the electorate understood and actually voted for them then, because the one issue that has been contentious for the last maybe 15, 20 years is how do we deal with Yoweri Museveni? And Museveni, to his credit, he doesn't even bother presenting a manifesto. Well, he does to tick the box that a party has to present a manifesto, but he is the manifesto himself. So the challenger in the 2021 election also presented a single issue manifesto: we are removing a dictator. And the response of the public was that yes, that's the only issue we want to deal with. So we're back to it again, that the leading political party now has postured to become a technocratic party, policy driven. And if you ask me, I think that's the loss, because you see, what matters in Parliament is not how much debate, eloquent debate happens on the floor. It's not how much reason happens in the conversations. It is who wakes up to vote, as Museveni told us. Who wakes up to say, I'm voting on behalf of either yes or no. And as I said at the very beginning, you will have a majority NRM presence in Parliament, and then every issue that matters to the life of a Ugandan, they'll be taken to Rachtura or Entebbe, and at the end of the day, we'll have the decision as Museveni wants it.
Yeah, and I read the articles you wrote, especially when you said that it would be best if we got back to a movement system, but also if the president gave us an opportunity to see life after him, if he gave us that opportunity. And I saw you plea, especially come from the academia, and presenting your credentials and saying, this is where I'm coming from.
I didn't present my credentials.
I can verbatimly
I wasn't saying I'm available in next government.
No. You're not presenting your credentials saying you're available, but you are saying, I'm speaking from this academia point of view. I have this PhD, I have this academic qualification, and this is how I am coming to you.
Now, I mean,
when you presented those two, when he leaves the dance floor, what does their page look like?
Now, you know, when Museveni came to power in 1986, it was forced onto him that the only way you could govern was through a movement system. Maybe it's not what he wanted, but there was no way. You wanted to get in to pull expertise and experience. And I wrote that opinion in response to, you know, there was a bashing of supposedly educated people. You know, the word elite in this country is used to mean educated people who can speak English. There was a bashing of those people, and I think it's regrettable that Kizza Besigye one time said the elite are the problem. I really love Kizza Besigye, but I think that really slipped through uncritically. It wasn't fair that he said that. But there was a bashing of people who have gone to school and have gotten educated. They're experts in different fields. And I said if whoever will come after Yoweri Museveni, be it His Excellency Bobi Wine or General Mugisha Muntu, whoever will come after, for the good of this country, will have to harness the little human resource we have that is educated and that has experience. He will have to work with people serving Museveni's government right now. They have no choice. It will be forced onto them. They will have to work with people inside Museveni's government because they have the experience. But they'll be working under a different way of doing things. They'll be working under new management. So the ethic will be different. We have a very small elite in this country. We don't have many educated people.
Okay.
So for you to build this country, you'll have to work with the best brains we have. In fact, as Samji Ibrahim Manganda said in one of his appearances on TV, he said, our peasant parents sent us to school to be better than them, so that we can serve them better. And I argue that even a foot soldier, you know, this man on the street who is fighting in support of His Excellency Bobi Wine, at the end of the day, what he demands of the Bobi Wine campaign is that after you get into office, get from the best from amongst us. Make them PS, make them ministers, make them, give them a mandate to serve, because we have educated them on our money, and we want them to serve us.
Thank you. Let me come to Dr. Okida. Doctor, we were here, you and I, and you gave us a very elaborate story about your constituency and the poverty that lingers there. You were vying, you have been nominated, and congratulations to you. But what are you offering to these people?
Let me first of all, you see, I'm lucky to have been in opposition for decades. When you are in opposition, you see things in a very different lens. It's completely different perception. But you need to start to appreciate. You know, as an economist, I look at things in an economist perspective. And one of my best economists is called Rostos. Rostos outlined 5 stages of economic growth and economic development. And he defines every stage with different characteristics. I have been lucky to live for 50 years as of now. I am also lucky to have experienced life before. There are things that we must sit down and stop to say, this has not happened. And start to say, this has happened, but this is where we're supposed to go. I lived in a village at the age of 17. I know how the village felt like. But most importantly, I know how the village looks like today. In Rosto's line of understanding of economic transition, by 1986, each one of us were very small people. Sarah, myself, and all these guys, we lived in a traditional society characterized by all what we saw. I was discussing with Sarah and he said, for us we were better off. And I said, of course. One of the characteristics of poverty is that you find the wakidas amongst very many people. So you have the Sarahs living there in Bishenyi, in their very good houses, but surrounding that community, there are multiplicity of people smelling poverty. And that's what a traditional society looks like. So the question is, where is Uganda today? Where is it supposed to be? That's the question everybody should ask.
And before we get to that question, you are vying to become a member of parliament. You have been a researcher. I've seen you produce research that was criticized. What are you offering these people that you're saying you're smelling poverty?
See, the challenge for a member of parliament is that you don't have a budget. And that's what has made everybody suffer. That as a member of parliament, all you can do is to identify challenges of a community. You are not like a president who can say, let this be there. Now, I know the problems of my community. One of them is that they are poor. The other one is that they suffer a multidimensional poverty situation. I know bad education, bad health service, bad road infrastructure. Above all, there is a poverty where you enter a house and you know these people are poor. So
you talked about and you spoke about having been in the opposition and now being in the ruling party.
Yes.
So what are you going to do different? You've seen it all.
You see, I want us first off to defy. You see, you are trying to put me in a position where you think I have all to define this problem.
No. Your slogan is protecting the gains.
Parliament.
What gains are you protecting from the Kedia region?
See, wait a minute, Timothy. The role of a member of parliament, and I want you to know this first, the role of a member of parliament is to say this must be done. Identify the problem. Propose a solution. You do not have a budget. Most members of parliament that have crashed.
But you appropriate the budget.
Wait a minute. You do not have control over that budget to your personal constituency. When you are appropriating, you do not say this is for wakidas. When you are appropriating, you are saying education sector needs this. The health sector needs this. Now, your ability to get the few things that to go to your community is what defines you. Now, I have seen members of parliament who go there and say, I'll do the road, I'll do this bridge, I'll do this. Of course, that's rubbish. You are not going to use your own money. But are you able to help the country to understand that this community where Serunkuma comes from needs a road, needs a health sector, needs an education sector to be improved? That's what a member of parliament does. And it stops us that. The other thing is to advocate. Now, Kabweri constituency. Let me talk about Bokedi. The indicators that we have, an economic indicator, shows that we're almost next to Karamoja in terms of poverty indices. And the problem is not by mistake. It's one of the community that does not have an economy. We're having a discussion with Sarah and his colleague there. And they said, you guys, you live in a middle income class. We still live in the traditional society. How do you balance that up? We must understand that for a country to be defined as a country that has developed, a country in that fourth stage, because Uganda today has moved out from the traditional society. I have moved this country. We moved out from the traditional society, characterized by, purely rudimentary method of production, bad housing, bad health service. We now have a coverage in terms of immunization to close 90%. People do not, you can actually look for a lame person suffering from polio and you don't get. But in the traditional society, that's the characteristics. Now, when you move from there, you come to transit to a stage of a takeoff stage, until when you reach the third stage of a takeoff stage. So Uganda is between that transition to a takeoff stage, and everybody must watch this. Today I was driving from Bale, coming to my community in Kadam. Let me tell you what I saw. I reached a place called Doko, immediately after Bugisu Cooperative. There was a crowd on the road. I stopped and I said, where are these people going? He said, these people are going to work in Sino. In my estimation, they could have been more than 5,000 people. They are going in an industrial sector to work. Now, development presupposes that you move away from this rudimentary method of production to a service sector, to an industrial sector. So Uganda has moved away from where we were. And as an opposition as I was, and Sarah is, we cannot sit here and say we've stagnated, we've moved, but there are many challenges that must be tackled.
But as a 17-year-old that grew up in Kabweri, and now as an adult that is vying, that left the opposition to go to the NRM, and is vying to become a member of parliament, that is now a candidate, you were just dancing around the problems and not telling us what you want to do. You're giving us macro economics.
You see, Timothy,
with smelling the poverty.
Timothy, economics is built on principles. Economics is not theoretical. You want to understand that stage after stage it's built on.
Okay.
Now, you have asked me, what do we have to do? And I've told you,
what gains are you protecting, in short? Because that's your manifesto of the NRM.
Let us first look at this.
Because you're talking poverty, you're talking
in this village.
Poor health centers.
Listen to me. I don't want to be an advocate of anything, but I want to be a realist. I grew up in a community that was entirely very poor. I was describing to Sarah the poverty that I lived. In my community, overall, there was no Mavat house.
But you're not answering his
The only person, no, he's asking me what am I gaining? What am I protecting?
Yes.
Today, I have just described for you a situation where I saw people roaming in Sino to go and work. Isn't that a gain?
Let me tell you how that works, Doctor. It works that 5,000 people walk. If that day they need 2,000 people, the other 3,000 are walking back home. That's how it works.
You
so
see,
explain to me what you're protecting.
Timothy, I want us to be real. I am a politician by baptism. That community, by the fact that you are getting about 5,000 people to go and work, should be appreciated. The fact that there are other people who are not working should be advocated for.
Okay.
No, wait a minute, because
Yes.
you've asked me. I am a director in Uganda Investment Authority, and I don't want to speak on behalf of Uganda Investment Authority. 10, 15 years ago, there were 40 industries in this country, manufacturing. Today, I'm talking about 648 industries.
Doctor.
No, wait.
No, hold on. You sound
what
like
gains are
Doctor,
there.
Hold on. You sound like you're telling us 40 years. We don't want 40 years.
No,
We want to know what has happened between 2021 and 2026 that you're protecting.
Timothy,
Don't give us 15, 5 years back.
Let me tell you, I don't have the number how Uganda was 5 years ago. I have the numbers where Uganda was about 10 years ago.
Okay.
And I can tell you, if you are going to analyze an economy, you must have a starting point. We call it the base year. Now, I'm going to use 10 years ago as a base year, and then I will use today as a current year. When I was in opposition with Sarah, I had the same perception that nothing is happening. If you want to know that Uganda has moved, go to Namamve,
Sorry, it's civil society.
go to Kape, go to Kape. And I want to tell you this, go to Sino. I have been a supervisor of these places. I have realized that as much as Uganda is moving, the population explosion is eating away the gains. And yet we have to work.
Okay, allow me bring in Council Benjamin Katano. Council, fortunately you represent the National Unity Platform here, but some of your candidates really can't afford this amount of money. 3 million shillings is steep. What are you doing and what's the fate of the National Unity Platform, especially as you present these different aspirants?
Yeah, thank you. And before that, I was in Kabweri. I was in Kabweri the other day, and Ndugu Akida is talking about Sino, but he has not talked about the ginneries that closed and the cotton economy that has collapsed in that part of the country, the cattle economy that has collapsed in that part of the country. So I think the development trajectory of this country is distorted. Because in 1944, my mother, my late mother now, was born on a train wagon, and the mother was traveling from Kasese to Bukedi. But today, my children can only see a train on TV. But we are saying there has been progress. So there could be some progress, yes, in some aspects, but there has also been decline in many aspects. But even where there has been progress, it has been moving on the speed of a tortoise. And even realistic, I think today the children of, and I don't know because I was in that community, I don't think there are very many children who can study like Dr. Wakida studied and reach his level. Because where will the money come from?
I agree with you.
In that community, take the children to the schools. But back to the question of nomination fees, of course it is also related to what we are discussing, because people don't have money. There are figures show that the economy is growing, that there is some money, but people don't have money in their pockets. So many people, while they may have the willingness and commitment to serve in different positions, may not have the ability to raise the 3 million that is required for nominations. I think it is not just ability, but also there are people who feel that their respective parties should be able to pay for them, even those who have some slight means. People sometimes are quick to make comparisons, but not in a comprehensive manner. They will say this party has met the nomination fees for their candidates. Why is this one not meeting the nomination fees for the candidates? But without looking at the different circumstances that the two parties find themselves in. So we have had so many people that had challenges, and with support from many Ugandans across the country, we have been able to support a number of them, but not all of them. In fact, we still have people who are stranded and are not able to meet the 3 million requirement.
How are you deciding on the criteria on who to support and who not to support?
So we asked people with the need to express, to request. And we started with, there are those people who say, I have 2 million, I have a shortfall of 1 million. Those ones are easier to support because then you're able to support many. But the other aspect is that if, for example, Sarah has been a member of parliament and she's saying, I'm not able to meet the 3 million, then it becomes a problem. That one cannot be given priority over the one who is a fresh person from, say, university, or who clearly makes a case to show you that they don't have money, but they are willing to serve. And so we are looking at case-by-case basis. but giving priority to those that have some money and need a contribution.
So by day one, which is today, my last question to you, how many aspirants have turned into candidates?
I need to establish, but okay. I know that the number of people that had been assisted in that regard were, by yesterday evening, we are around 150.
Okay, thank you. Let me come to Dr. Werike before I come to Dr. Sarah. In view of the citizens, why are citizens always pushing aspirants, candidates, to get out of that mandate, legislation, representation, appropriation? Why are they always pushed, like he said, roads and all these things? What are the aspirations? Do they know the aspirations of the citizens?
I think, Timothy, there is one problem this country has that has not been sorted. Recently, we celebrated 30 years of our constitution. Now, because Uganda is a signatory to the International Convention on economics, on promotion of economic, social and cultural rights, we embedded into the constitution that we should train our people and give them civic education for them to competently engage in issues of governance. But since 1995, we created the institutional framework by establishing the Uganda Human Rights Commission as to play the role of education, including civic education. But to date, there is no civic education policy in 30 years. We have very high school dropout rates. You can see at UPE how many people are dropping out. So when they drop out, where do they go? And these are the ones who are going to transit into the voters of today and tomorrow. So without competent citizens to be able to understand their duties, to understand the respective roles of different offices, they are going to rate these candidates based on the waragi that they have drunk on the day of voting. And that's why I saw candidates like General Mugisha Muntu struggling to raise signatures. And what he said was that when he sent people out there, the citizens were asking for money to sign. Because you see, that's a big, big problem. If you have such a population, then even when a madman stands on the street and begins talking to himself, they will gather and begin cheering. Because they have nothing to do, they don't understand what to do, they don't know their civic duty, and this is what this country is experiencing. And so in such circumstances, we see the populists coming up, taking advantage of evolution in media, for example. Social media is now very vibrant, and the young people will look at it, someone dancing well, and they say, this one is fit to represent me. So the populists will take advantage of these channels. They will also take advantage of other gaps within the governance system. For instance, a Afrobarometer report not long ago reported that the trust between the citizens, the voters,
and Afrobarometer by Wakiden?
No, the Afrobarometer is big. I think it is a research world.
Okay. But
It's research world international. Yeah, but this is the Africa Barometer I'm talking about. So the Afrobarometer said that the gap between the citizens and the leaders is very wide. For instance, if I quote, that report say that only 26% of the citizens trust information that is coming from their member of parliament, and only 29% trusted a word from the president. So in such a country, you are totally detached from the people that you are going to serve. They are going to the west and you are going to the east. So tomorrow, even when you legitimately talk about what you are going to do, they will not believe you. They will want to get what they want at that particular time. At the time we were doing the parliamentary scorecard, in the 10th parliament, we saw a trend where some members of parliament who spent 5 years never speaking in a committee or in the plenary, have voted back. So we sent researchers to find out the reasons. There was a particular case in Chigezi where voters were saying this honorable of ours is very good because he doesn't waste time in Kampala. He's always here in the constituency with us, drinking with us. This is the kind of leader that we want. So if we cannot cure such a population, we cannot immunize it of that ignorance, then we cannot get the leaders that we really need as a country. Now, there is also this challenge. If we vote leaders and they get into the office, what is the practice? We have the laws, like if you go to parliament, you go and look at the Parliament Code of Conduct. It talks about acting with integrity, acting without influence, okay? Acting without receiving under the carpet money that is not given through the budget of Parliament. It talks about acting in trust. In a trust meaning that you are in that office not on your own behalf, but because of the people that sent you there. How often do we subject those rules to test such that it becomes a practice, and then we have a leadership that is disciplined, and then that the citizens can admire, can emulate? Today, it is normal for a member of parliament to be accused of a bribe, and then he say, who doesn't want money? Just casually like that. So if you see citizens running around like a headless chicken, then there is something that we must cure. Because if you have a garden and you want better crops, then you have to put their manure. You have to weed. But are we doing that as a country? I think those are the governance gaps that we need to. We closed the gaps of donor funding here. Through one of the...
You said something about weeding and manure. Who's supposed to do that?
Now, I don't want
alongside the consciousness of the population, rate it.
All right. Like I said, there is what we call the formal education system. Mm-hmm. Some of us, when we were young, we had a course called civics at primary school. You would be taught every week, every day, about the duties of a citizen. What does the national flag mean? What does the oath that the MPs take mean? If an MP steps on the stairs of parliament and say, I swear to protect, to defend, to promote, to pay true allegiance to the Republic of Uganda, what does it mean? Those things were being taught to us through the school system. Now, we have that which can be integrated either through government policy, like I told you. The Human Rights Commission has this role, but it's never funded. They're never funded. So we in the civil society depend on little funding from external sources, which again the government does not want. That's why we're saying, why can't government fund citizens' awareness, civic education, so that you have a productive population that can constructively engage, that will not tomorrow wake up and set the Bank of Uganda on fire.
Okay, thank you very much. And I'll come to Dr. Sarah. Doctor, this is a question I think I'll also put to the rest of the panelists. How would you rate the performance of the 11th Parliament?
That's the most complicated question.
With bills like the anti-homosexuality, rationalization, computer misuse, political parties and organizations, and the UPDF Act. Rate the 11th Parliament's performance in these 5 years.
Yeah, I want to give it a bit of context that to evaluate the performance of Parliament, you need to look at the legislative activity, political dynamics, impact of Parliament on national governance, and then the economic impact on the work of Parliament. Dr. Wakida did say that, MPs don't have a budget. And that's what exactly it should be. In a democracy, MPs don't need a budget. Because what is the work of MPs? And that's the biggest distortion we've carried on with as a country. Functions of MPs in our constitution are enshrined in Article 79 of the Constitution to make laws for the peace, order, and development of Uganda, to protect the Constitution, and promote constitutional governance. Additional functions are enshrined in Chapter 9 on finance, taxation, appropriation, accountability, and the management of public debt. Those are the core functions of an MP. So the problem is that the people seeking the job of an MP don't understand the terms of reference for that work. And then coupled with what Werike has expounded on, the little or no civic education in the country. But I think it starts with the leadership. Do people understand the work of Parliament? So when you look at the leadership of the 11th Parliament, and with all due respect to my friends, they've lowered the bar so much. I think this is the lowest caliber of Parliament Uganda has ever had in the history of Uganda's post-independence era. We have the lowest quality of Parliament. Very unfortunate. Because as much as we want to mirror the figures of progress under NRM, of protecting the gains, and I've been asking myself this question. When you look at the quality of human development and the characteristics of leadership, NRM has lowered and downgraded leadership across board. And I don't know how we can call that development. When you compare with the quality and the caliber of Ugandans that represented us in the Constituent Assembly 30 years ago, you compare with the Parliament today, I think you would score them at 5% of where we were 30 years ago. This is a 95% downgrade of leadership. How have we carried on with this distortion, and how do we call it development or progress? So many issues have affected leadership. First is the distortion of politics and governance. You need to go distribute marijuana, you need to go dance and sweep roads in order to emerge as a leader. You are like an operator of a circus show to be a popular leader. What has that got to do with the leadership? When you look at the commercialization of politics, now politics is the most lucrative business. Very unfortunate. And this is not development. And we should not call it progress. And these are the symptoms of NRM, 40 years of NRM. High commercialization of politics. Because most of them have access to taxpayers' money. That's why they put nomination at 3 million as an elimination method. Because they can access the money. So for you who don't have access to huge chunks of money, and that's just a small portion of what you need to contest for Parliament. You need a minimum of 500 million to comfortably contest for Parliament. How many people? First of all, does it make sense that an upright person gets 500 million to put it in a political campaign to do public service, which is like pro bono?
You bribe people to lead them.
It doesn't make sense. And this is the society that we seek to say protect the gains. Which gains? We must destroy the distortions. So why would a person invest 2 billion in a parliamentary seat to offer a service? You must either be a thief or a crook, or both. Because what business are you doing? That's to lead people. You must bribe them in order to work for them. Then why are you working for them if they need to be bribed? And I'm speaking also to the voters out there who think that campaigns is like a cash bonanza season. Everybody's there looking, what are you giving us? What are you? You know, everybody has become part of, I don't know how to call it. So this distortion, we cannot protect it, Dr. Wakida. I hope this is not part of what you want to protect in the name of gains.
He wants to become a part of.
Of the gains. Or the protection of the gain.
Doctor, I'm coming back to you.
So governance has collapsed. If you, and it cuts across other arms of government, but since we are focusing on parliament, so if you go strictly to the 11th parliament, they've made many laws. Some of them with zero public participation. They are like doing robot registration. They pass a law in a day or two. When the laws provide for 45 days of public participation. The first reading, second reading, you take the bill to the committee. No, first reading to the committee, 45 days of public participation. Second reading, there is a debate. There used to be debate on a bill for 1-2 weeks. But now, because of the law, carbariders, then they say, I want this bill passed in 45 minutes. Robot registration. They are just ticking the box. So these laws are not owned by the people. Because what makes a law must represent the views, aspirations, values, and wishes of the people. So when you don't involve them, that you are doing robot registration, you have a speaker who is like a flower girl of the regime. Robot registration. So you are making these laws for who? They are not owned by the people. So when you look at, there are a few things they did well, of course, like defeating that Pinetti coffee agenda. It was very good. I don't know what else they've done well, but at least I know that one.
They lost UCDA, so.
No, I know, but the Pinetti coffee, of course, later they brought a coffee bill which also took away the gains that citizens would have got by defeating the Pinetti bill. They have attempted to speak for the unfunded priorities. You have a regime that does a budget. If something is a priority, why do you blanket it as unfunded? Then it's not a priority. Why don't you book it and say, in the next financial year, this will be our focus, other than carrying a chain of unfunded priorities? And usually, these unfunded priorities are the issues that concern the people. Under the same parliament, we've had a series of teachers' strikes, and up to now, their issues are not addressed. We have had a series of traders' strikes. Their issues remain unaddressed. So when you look at those are failures of parliament.
And before I get to the rest of the panelists to give a comment on this, just one more question. The 6th parliament had 295 members. This has had 559 members. Is this progress or regress?
Of course, the politics of patronage have caused us a crisis of a bloated administration bill. The same expansion goes to cabinet, same expansion goes to RDs and all other offices, including presidential advisors. So you look at the issue, we have the highest cabinet in Africa and the 3rd highest in the world, followed by Yugoslavia and another country. 3rd highest, biggest cabinet, over 81 ministers in a population of 45 MPs. We have also a parliament which is larger than India, a population of 6 billion. So that shows you how crazy we are and how we have distorted governance. Uganda does not need this Kayora parliament of ours.
Okay.
People have, as I conclude, people have nowhere to sit. People have no time to debate. And you call that a parliament? Because the duty of the job of an MP is to debate. It's 2 minutes. It's not a parliament.
Dr. Wakida, I'm going to come to you. I'm just going to go around.
I want to explain an impression Sarah is creating here. You see, I am an economist by all ways. Unfunded priorities. I heard Sarah mention this. And I want...
Some are carried forward for 3 years.
I want to help people understand how budgeting in government is done. In economics, we have 3 principles Principle number one presupposes that resources are scarce. Principle number two is that because of the scarce resources, we take choice. Principle number three is that because of the scarce resources, we've taken choices. There is an opportunity cost. And because of that opportunity cost, in budgeting and planning, we have what we call the scale of preference. A scale of preference comes with too many things. For you to determine those preferences, you must look at the budget pack you have. It does not mean that because you have funded 1, 2, 3 priorities, the other ones are not priorities. You are funding 1, 2, 3 priorities because the resource pack you have cannot fund the 6, so you fund 3.
So, Doctor, allow me to ask you this question, and I'm glad you are mentioning it. Dr. Sarah, we were here, and we asked the Minister of Finance. I remember he was seated where you seated, and we asked him, why do we have unutilized finances?
Hopefully not to get another 2 minutes later.
Why do we have borrowed money of up to a tune of 16 trillion shillings unutilized, and you're still talking about opportunity cost?
You see, Timothy, you know, I don't want to come here and start to appear as if I'm in a class. There is what we call absorptive capacity.
And the students will not be listening.
In every absorptive capacity, we presuppose that we have budgeted for Timothy 1 billion shillings, but you have failed to absorb that money.
Because we have not
That's number one.
designed,
No.
planned,
No.
or executed.
No. Much of the money that you see the ministry is not able to spend is because of the laws that have been made. I'll give an example. You want to construct roads.
No, let me give you an example.
No.
PG Express,
Timothy,
2018, up to today,
you see,
nothing has been
Timothy,
done.
I want to explain.
Ginger Express.
You see, until when we harmonize these laws, so you have a procurement process that is so long. This money is approved in July. It has to be spent between August and no, wait, because you asked me. 31st of June, the following year. You need 6 months to run a procurement process. So you lose 6 months. You start to implement when you're entering the 3rd quarter of a year. When you see money unspent, most times there are areas that have made it impossible for you to spend it. It's not that government cannot consume that money.
Thank you, Doctor. Let me start with Benjamin, Werike, and then Yusuf. Your rating of the performance of the 11th Parliament as it comes to the tail end.
Yeah, you see, I think in this country, we have a narrow view of the role of leadership. Because people always want to run to the statutory duties of a member of parliament or a councillor. But in my view, that is the minimum expectation. That you are going to parliament to legislate, oversight, budgeting. That is, but by and large, you are a leader. And leaders, ideally, should be people that provide solutions. And if you have been a member of parliament for a specific constituency, after 5 years, you should be able to account and say, when I became an MP in this constituency, people never used it to wash their hands. But today, 80% of the people in this place wash their hands.
As an MP?
As a leader. In addition to all those things that you have talked about that are in the law. And you are not going to do this through enforcement.
How about school?
But through influence.
How about school?
Because you have convening power as a leader to influence the thinking, the culture, the behavior of the population. That is how transformation is done. Otherwise, then you are now behaving like people who are employed in a company and his job is to come and make sure that they have worked on these documents. But back to your question. democracy runs on a number of principles, and one of them is separation of powers. And separation of powers also, along with it goes the concept of checks and balances. That each of the arms of the state is able to check the other. Today, in Uganda, you have citizens that are being subjected to enforced disappearances. And the Parliament of Uganda cannot even raise a finger. The country has been asking for the whereabouts of Sam Mugumya. I'm just using him as an example. Since 2019, we have been talking about people like John Bosco Chiwarama. We have been talking about people like Damulira, who was working in Chiseka. To date, Parliament has not moved in checking the abuse of authority by the executive, because by implication it is the executive that commands the security forces. There have been complaints about the inability of the judiciary to administer justice fairly, and Parliament has not said the thing. We have had, every day you see Parliament, they will come and complain, they say, oh, this money was lost. IGG makes reports, but the same agents of the state will be given money, nobody has been held accountable. So the Parliament, first of all, lost its ability to hold the executive accountable, to check the excesses of the executive, and it has been reduced into a weak institution that just rubber stamps the wishes of the executive. And in that regard, it has terribly failed. Okay. I don't know if that is right English, but it has failed in execution of its mandate.
Thank you. Dr. Jared.
Thank you. Again, I will not be academic. I will look at the various aspects of performance. I will start with the issue of image, okay? Because the image of Parliament is the key to its performance and is key to building the trust between the institution and the people. But when this Parliament started, immediately there were allegations of a member of Parliament saying, we went to Kololo and we received 40 million. Now, if we had functional systems, we would have said, where did you receive it? The cameras are everywhere. Where did you enter? Who gave you? And what's the source of this money? So the image has not been good, that it even attracted protests from the public and corruption protests from the public, especially after the 500 million scandal to the commissioners, the money given to the commissioners. Of course, not everything that is legal is ethical. We saw people saying, oh, the court has said this, but what does the leadership tribunal have to say about it? So I think in terms of image, we are not doing very, very well. For me, the lowest point was when I saw the Speaker of Parliament in the midst of the tension, kneeling before the president and said, you know, Daddy, I will do whatever you want. And as a person who heads the third arm of government, for me, that was the lowest point of this Parliament. Then lastly, before I get disoriented, we have accountability committees that Kosase, Park, they are suffering with backlog. There have been plans, talk of how to expedite, and then also the outcome of the hearings. We no longer see those committees that used to hold people accountable leading to sacking, suspension, like it used to happen before. So it's people enter there like expecting to eat sausage and go home. So for me, that one is a weakness on this Parliament. In terms of output, Dr. Sarah said robotic way of presenting bills, debating and execution. Yes, the bills are many. If you look at the output in terms of reports, in terms of bills, there are very many. But sometimes the quality is affected because of limited consultations from the key stakeholders.
Let me bring Yusuf. Your rating of the performance of the 11th, and also keeping in mind that Yusuf, were here and were talking about SEC, you and I, and you called it a circus.
It's a big circus.
A big circus.
Entertaining.
And I remember breaking news of saying that the second vice chairperson has been nominated, and you say developing news?
No,
Timothy, really?
We expected it, yeah.
So, when you look at what you named as the circus and also the performance here, give us your opinion.
Timothy, I should first give you credit. I didn't know your game. I saw you roast this man in his chair, asking him what gains he was protecting. and that was a beautiful segment because he moved you this way, he spoke so much big English, and at some point I said, I think this was the meaning they say elites are the problem. He went there, he went this way, you said, no, what gains are you protecting? And then I said, Timothy is really bothering this man for nothing. This man has no response to those questions. Those are Museveni questions. Please, Timothy, you need to sit down with Museveni and ask him which gains is he pretending to protect. This man wasn't there when they devised that slogan, protect the gains. He just wants to join the thing. He was not there. But Timothy, the point, one of the puzzling things for me is that if you see a director at Uganda Investment Authority trying to become an MP, that's the crisis of this country. Because Uganda Investment Authority already has power to do things. Now this man thinks being at Uganda Investment Authority is a lower position. You have to join parliament so that you influence things. He's already empowered by being a director, not a worker, a director, which means he can move things. But he still thinks that he has to go to parliament so that he can serve people of Bukedi better. Now that takes me to the point that the article that my friend Robert Karumaga wrote a couple months ago. He said parliament is the bribe for a channel through which the system of colonial control gives the elite, channels money to the elite to give them a soft life and comfort so that they leave the other wretches on their own. So they see, suppose, I'm sure Saravit is braving so much pressure to join parliament. And I think Benjamin also is being persuaded to join parliament because they see you as a potential elite who can lead a revolution. So they attract you into the bigger bribe, which is parliament, so that they buy you, they give you a soft life. This is why these fellows, it's funny I'm pointing at this man because he's trying to become one. They have the leeway to increase their salaries. Unhinged. They can wake up one day and say, we need this package. They'll get it. Because parliament is the bigger bribe to the elite. How do you channel? This is the colonial model. The logical, the protesters of the Bataka Arrest 1940, one of the ways of corrupting them into stopping leading protests was to invite them to the logical, so that they become members of parliament who will be given the comfort of being a member of parliament. They acquire property and forgot about everybody else. This is why as soon as this man gets into parliament, he has a car, but they'll give him another big car. You see, so that the comfort he enjoys is tripled, and then he'll forget about the riches of Bukedi. They'll be on their own. But there's a point that Sarah made, which I wanted to return to. You see, I spoke about management. In 2005, Museveni pushed through a law which turned politics, which are supposed to be pro bono, as a source of livelihood. That you are supposed to resign your job 3 months to nomination day. I'm sure this man has already resigned. And 3 months of elections, of campaigns, you have no job for 6 months. So once you resign your source of livelihood, you are looking at the alternative livelihood, which is joining politics. This is why the rise in commercialization, and I think I was happy Sarah mentioned 1994 Constituent Assembly. The people who went in that space didn't have to bribe the voters to go there. No. Because you could, if you lost, you said I can represent you. If you lost, you go back to your job.
Yeah.
If you lost,
you presented yourself to the electorate that can represent you. If they said no, you just go back to your job and continue your normal livelihood. Now Museveni turned that around. He said, if you want to represent your people, what you're going to do will be your next job. So you don't need to have a livelihood. So we have locked many wonderful people in public service. In fact, even private institutions which have a closeness with the public service have the same policy. You have to resign your job. So we are leaving the legacy of this legislation. 20 years on after 2005, we're leaving that legacy. That if you look at our parliament, I keep saying this stuff, if you look at our parliament, it's mostly composed of people from the public sector. You have lawyers, not because they're the best legislators, but because they are essentially public sector. You have struggling business people, you have, I won't say struggling musicians because some are doing wonderfully well, but the hugest component of parliament is people who have never held a job in the public sector. If they are there, they took the gamble to resign, and once you resign, you have to pay through the nose because you know there's no fallback.
Yeah.
Okay.
You have made the decision to join. So this is why you see it's on the one hand a bribe for the elite, but it has become so attractive that you have to get there. But also to get there, you have to take the decision that it is either you remain in your job or you get a new job, which is politics.
It's really a gamble. Lastly, Dr. Wakida.
Yes.
Your thoughts on the performance of the 11th Parliament?
You see, Sarah described the agenda of Parliament. It would be wrong for you to sit here and start to assess the performance of that Parliament when you don't know what they were supposed to have delivered. In Employment Act, you outline what somebody is supposed to be done. An appraisal is based on that. Now, are you talking about the quality of legislation or the quantity of legislation?
The quality. Because that's what we're looking for.
And I'm happy.
And we're comparing it to
and
the
I'm
others.
happy you brought him into that. If you are going to define the quality of legislation, is it attached to the way it was passed? Sometimes we do an abstractive discussion, and that abstractive discussion is misleading. There is a day where I met people who were discussing, say, that Parliament is full of mediocres. A number of people have done research, I'm sure these guys in civil society, together we've done this. That Parliament has about 70-75% graduates. Now, if you want to look at the quality of output of Parliament in terms of who is legislating, you have already messed up.
No,
now, you want to look at Parliament in terms of what were they supposed to have done in that Parliament period. What have they done? Now, you assess them according to that. Many people have looked at this Parliament as hasty. Like Sarah said, they have passed laws so quickly, they have not gone through the process. You can rate them on that. Others have rated it in terms of the quality of reports.
But Doctor, I want to be candid, but I also want to pick from what they've said. Benjamin spoke about leadership outside what your mandate is. Dr. Gerard spoke about, he talked about comparing it to the 6th Parliament, but also the values that were there. He also went ahead and spoke about, there is the law, but there's the ethics. There's also the separation doctrine. You are picking on one yardstick of legislation.
No, you see, for me, when I'm looking at this, I look at an aggregation. In our academic sphere where we live, you look at 360 degrees of an object.
Okay.
Now, I am not going to sit here and look at the Parliament based on perception. Perception. Because perception in itself is construed by individuals. I can choose to not like your tie. It doesn't mean it's not a good one. Now, many people have looked at that parliament as very corrupt. I have heard that. Others have looked at it in the sense of too many people having very few minutes to discuss. I think Sarah has mentioned that, and that makes sense. I am one of those people who want to discuss things to the depth of it. I am an admirer of a man called the late Okule Park. When he stood up, that he dissected the issue and made it known. If you are going to look at that parliament in that context, of course it lacks. I don't know whether you've looked at their committee reports. They have committee reports. Do you want to analyze them based on the committee reports? Do you want to analyze them based on the discussion in the plenary?
The actions taken.
Okay.
Now, the actions taken. Wait.
Lastly, Doctor. Lastly.
This one,
You see for me.
Doctor, we need to take a break. Let's take a break and come back. Let me first read some feedback here. Thank you, Timothy, for the program. Dr. Wakida is better off staying in the opposition and civil society. In the footballing terms, we would describe him as flat-footed and a candidate for substitution in 10 minutes of the game. Very interesting. Someone continues and says, good evening, Timothy. Thank you for the show. This is Dennis from Arua. We used to cherish Dr. Wakida. I don't know what has happened now. Okay. Someone else comes and says, good evening, Timothy. Thank you. If we see the candidates who are getting nominated from today, 90% of them are just job seekers. Parliament will never be the parliament as long as NRM has the majority in the House, because just as one of the panelists said, they are all under one mind and one voice. This is Chakala. Thank you, Chakala. Thank you for the show. It's indeed important to choose quality leaders for Uganda's new parliament. Education levels are critical and crucial. This is Peter Sande. Thank you. Finally, thank you for the show, Timothy. I'm Bua Jablano from Lira. Thank you for the show. I want to say I'm very disappointed with Dr. Serunkuma's statement. He always says Uganda is in the hands of Mr. Museveni. We who are inspired by him are very disappointed. Now the topic. I want to say that we shall get the leaders we deserve, exactly because from the scene of the campaigns, it's just about dancing by population, and unfortunately, the la creme of the country have abandoned us at the hands of the president. Okay. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll dissect these and more.
UGANDA'S, the unstoppable internet deal of deals is here with MTN Wakanet Fiber. Connect your home with our starter pack of 100 Mbps at only 99k. And if you want more speed for less, we've got you. Get the 200 Mbps at only 129k. And the fastest one yet? Enjoy up to 500 Mbps at only 250k. To sign up, use the My MTN app or dial *100 *23#. Offer is valid till the 30th of November for both new and existing subscribers. Together, our connection is unstoppable.
The government's core mandate is to maintain law and order, safeguard citizens' rights, and provide essential public services.
Remember, one of the pillars of the roadmap is innovation and entrepreneurship.
There has been this question of how are you protecting our indigenous seed?
It's going to be a tall project that answers somebody's question.
The front bench has brought you insightful discussions on governance, security, healthcare, justice, and commerce.
Why do you go through this complicated procedure, involve the lawyers? You bring the case against him, the judge will hear you out and pass judgment, and you're out of court in record time.
We remain committed to keeping you informed and engaged on key national matters.
So these are huge, these are powerful organizations which now Uganda chairs. Why don't you come together?
If we haven't migrated to the e-card because of various reasons, including that not all the people of Uganda have smartphones.
You can sit in your house, apply for a passport, if you have a Ugandan who has a successful logistics firm in the US, it means he can come to Uganda and do a lot more.
Every Monday at 8:30 p.m. with me, Jethro Kasaiji, your interface with the government only on your public broadcaster, UBC, Inspiring Uganda.
Welcome back from that quick commercial break here on Behind the Headlines. The conversation continues. My name is Timothy Nyangoso. I'm joined by Dr. Sarah Birete, Benjamin Katana, Dr. Gerard Werike, Dr. Yusuf Serukuma, Dr. Wakida Patrick, and we're discussing the nomination that happened today and tomorrow, but also in hindsight, the performance of the 11th Parliament, and we'll be predicting what the 12th Parliament will be looking like, especially that some districts are being formed, but also what are the whims of the powers that be? Can separation of powers really happen in this government? Well, let me read 3 messages and come back to the panel.
As long as they are not insulting us.
Thank you for the program. We have voters who do not know why they vote, members of parliament, and members of parliament who do not go, who go to run to parliament just to make money. The role of parliament has been diluted. Good, interesting point there. This is Kamara in a patch. He says, remind Dr. Wakida that Uganda's spin mills in Lira was one of the 3 great industries in Africa, but was sold by the president and this government into privatization to Chinese who bought it and dismantled it and its spare parts and took it to their country. Okay? Okay. We'll leave it at that. Let me come to you.
Tell that guy that even Ford in the UK no longer works. We now have different types of car.
It's an American company. Where does it work?
You understand?
Let me come to Yusuf first there. Yusuf, paint a picture for us, because the environment that these players are getting into, hundreds of them getting into this environment, interesting environment, no violence, no bullets, no tear gas. What could be the key influences and the differences in what becomes a member of parliament?
You saying no bullets,
no tear gas,
as you said, as yet, because we're
so
not
far.
We're not yet into the thick of the campaigns. You know, I wait to see Bob Wine getting closer to Uganda, to the seat of government, see if there'll be restraint. You see, but you see, wherever he's going around the country, he's still being stopped from using the main routes. There's sabotage already ongoing, but you know, the old political science that you need to connect the rural and the urban to overthrow a government, you know, doesn't make sense anymore. You only need the urban space. So our politics in this country is basically determined by what happens near the seat of government. The people in the central region interact with government every day. The messy roads, the taxation, they interact with government every day, and they have potential to overthrow the government by just, you know, getting together. Say, you know, if they get to Kawempe and they say we're moving to Nakasero, we're kicking someone out of office, they're moving to Entebbe, all those is the proximity of the seat of government. So we wait to see them getting closer to Radio Uganda, because you see, this is here. Once they take over this place, they can say, we special announcement, breaking news. So we wait to see, because I can guarantee you, Timothy, Museveni fears the electoral season as opposed to people opposing him, because this season is the only season where he allows free, you know, assembly and sloganeering and chanting and campaigning. So the season is very fluid to determine. And I think we're to get into the thick of it maybe in December, November. I remember events happened in November last year in the previous election. So we're to see closer to this AG period, and we see what happens. I think it's too early to judge now, because, you know, the nominations of the MPs, for example, just happening. So wait to see what is happening. The bigger point for me is that as we get into the season, I worry about, like, the electoral process is predetermined. You know, we'll have majority NRM, minority opposition, and Museveni will be president. So that is already predetermined for me, right? I have no qualms over that, and I think everybody here agrees that's how it's going. That's the outcome. The point that I'm worried about, and as you said, you've been reading my columns, is, you know, the 81-year-old president holding fort for the next 5 years. And once he stands again after 5 years, he'll still win the election or will be declared winner. How far can we take it? Because it's getting more nervous now. You know, Raila Odinga passed from a heart attack in India at a medical facility. Museveni travels around this country with a hospital. So anything could happen. I worry more about the security of this country put together, which is now assembled in the life of Mr. Museveni. Because every single institution in this country which would give us stability is dead. From parliament to the judiciary, to the religious institutions, to the traditional institutions, to, you think about an institution that would give this country stability in the moment of uncertainty. All those institutions have been either corrupted or systematically killed. So in the moment that we are hit by tragedy,
God forbid.
God forbid, and old age has no cure, and old age comes with a million complications and surprises. So that worries me much more. You know, I've pleaded before that we needed not to go into an electoral process. We need to, because you see, Timothy, the things that matter to us, the cooperatives that, you know, Benjamin spoke about, which were, you know, sold, our electricity, you know, our coffee, the things that matter to us as a country, the answer is not parliament. The answer is not an election. The answer is us sitting together. And now we are stuck to this sort of a democratic facade. We're stuck to this democratic circus where every single piece of the puzzle is already known. And we pretend not to know it. Because the circus is entertaining. We pretend not to know that, you know, somebody is going to win or is going to be declared winner. We pretend not to know this because it's exciting to go through this process. We pretend that, you know, NRM is not going to be a majority in the parliament. We know this. So for me, I've been arguing that we need to start thinking, especially considering the life of our president, who is old and clearly frail. When you see him walk, he's not the agile guy who was walking 40 years ago, or 50 or 60 years ago, when he was 60. He's frail, and at 81, anything can happen, Timothy. And looks like neither of the people, be it the NRM or the people in the opposition, nobody is thinking about the possibility that we need to transit to another leader. Nobody is fronting succession, right? Nobody is doing that, including the NRM. It's like for them, that's even a security thing. If you start talking about succession, you're seen as maybe a mole inside the NRM. But that's what we're looking at in the next 5 years, that Museveni is going to be declared winner, and we'll go through the same things. Corruption will be, as has always been, accidents on the road as they've always been, and all these deals will continue uninterrupted. But what happens, Timothy, if our president fails to wake up?
Yusuf, how do we prepare for that conversation, and who leads the sit down to have such a critical conversation?
I mean, at some point I was looking for Museveni's close friends. I don't know who they are.
I saw them.
You know, I was looking for them and say, you know, Sir Richard Kaijuka at least stood up at call and said, you and Museveni, please give this country a chance. We thank you so much for your service for the last 40 years. Right? I'm still looking for those. He's close. You see, for me, I don't even care if Museveni gives us Salim Saleh, or his son, Moses Kainerugaba, or his wife as next president, so that the transition starts. Otherwise, we are trapped in this circus. You know, the euphoria and the excitement that comes with this electoral process is exciting. But I can guarantee you, all of us here, we know what is going to happen in 2026. We know who is going to be sworn in. I don't see, you know, Museveni sitting back. Timothy Karejigira this morning wanted me to picture a situation that Museveni says, the election I have been defeated and I am going to write to that. that even we are come against the courage to declare Bobby Wine as the winner of the election. And Museveni says, thank you so much for supporting me. Now it is my time to go back to Rachel. Timothy, your namesake Karejigira wanted me to picture such a situation. And I said, it's a difficult hypothesis.
Okay. Dr. Jared, let me come to you. And when you see, we're talking about the environment. When you look at the environment right now, very sad pictures. Benjamin and I were conversing before the show began about Kakumiro and all that. When you look at this environment, we have presidential candidates there. We have members of parliament candidates that are stepping in. Local government will be stepping in. special interest groups will be stepping in. What undercurrents are we missing about this environment? Because we do not want what happened in like Yusuf has said, 2020 in Luka. How do we avert that? And what are we missing about this whole situation?
I think I will not discuss out of the blue. I will look at, for instance, 2016, before I come to 2021 and 2025. 2016, we had a very strong candidate in the name of Dr. Kizza Besigye. And I don't remember Dr. Kizza Besigye being stopped from campaigning almost every part of the country. The challenge came when he said, you know, the ballot staffing is taking place here in Nakuru, and instead of the police saying, let's check, they instead arrested the person reporting. We saw issues, the response, when they wanted to collect the declaration forms to go to court, all the agents being arrested and detained. So I think every election comes with its own context. 2021, we had COVID-19. And COVID-19 presented the sitting government with an opportunity to suppress the opponents in the guise of protecting people from COVID. And so that's why we saw a lot of violence. But this time, in the absence of COVID, I think that is why we are having some peaceful campaigns. But I can also not guarantee that it will be this up to January, because there are already overzealous police officers that I'm seeing in different places attempting to provoke the population into either throwing, but also the behavior of leaders who are involved in these campaigns is key. I've seen this time leaders also exercising a lot of restraint. I've seen candidate Chagulanyi telling his supporters, you know, don't fight, let's just do it peacefully. And this is a role that every stakeholder needs to play in the electoral process. But also it's important that we mark out the hot spots, because most times they are known. Isingiro, you know, parts of Kampala here, we have seen areas in Busoga like Iganga and so forth. So I think those need to be taken, to be given a special attention. But as we all see, of course, I can't say the Electoral Commission is going to produce its own results, but probably the process might have been planned in the way that it favors one candidate to be the winner, because this candidate may not accept the outcome. But
are you saying the elections are scripted?
I can see, because when we talked about electoral reforms, demanding for them, nothing was done. You know, nothing was done about the electoral reforms. We saw the accreditation of observers and organizations to do civic education. The organization I'm associated with hosts a big coalition of civic educators under SECU, Civic Education Coalition, Uganda, UPMAC. But when we applied, you are scored so highly, but then you are not accredited. And then you find very small organizations that cannot even observe a village on the list of the 50. So that shows that there is something being played beyond what we see. That probably NGO forum, which is another umbrella, should be left out. This should be left out, and let's have some pseudo small organizations to do their job. And as you recall, one of the biggest problems of the 2021 elections was that observing was a problem. Other international observers pulled out, and the reports, if you read the report of the East African community, it pointed out specifically on about that, and then the issue of this cutout of 1 year to elections where the register is closed, and then very many young people who turn 18 are left out. So I did a study for the African Youth Development Link, trying to compare South Africa, Kenya, how do they do it so these young people who make 18 don't miss out. We discovered that in Kenya, the cutoff is 6 months. In South Africa, it is 3 months, 90 days. Because voter registration is continuous because it's digital. It's digital. When you attain, they also, like South Africa, they register people at 16, but they vote when they make 18. So they simply give you, when you make 18, they simply give you your voter credentials. But here, we leave over 1 million voters out because of their age, and yet have attained the age of, I think all of these are made in the way that they favor probably a certain candidate, because many younger people probably may not be associating with that candidate.
Thank you very much. Benjamin, some of your candidates are standing as independents. I know the Honorable Segona, I saw him today. I also saw the Honorable Joyce Bagala. What does that mean for the National Unity Platform, especially with some of the players seemingly stepping out of line, if I could use those words?
Yeah, but maybe allow me use the opportunity to just make a quick comment in respect to the submission of Dr. Yusuf, particularly about the scripted results. Certainly agree that there is a plan to make sure that all these processes take place, but this is how it will end. Our view is that while that is the plan, if we organize and mobilize in a manner that we can be able to avert such a plan. And our conclusion on that position is informed by what has transpired elsewhere. That you have had autocratic governments organize elections for purposes of ticking a box, and in the end, because there has been very good organization, that plan is averted and the elections take them. I'm sure we all, for example, remember the case of Yahya Jammeh in Gambia, and several other examples. So we believe that this election matches their plans to make sure that it is turned into just another scheme of ticking the box, that it gives us an opportunity to upset the regime. And we are working towards that. On the question of independence, I think it has got many aspects. One is that citizens qualified either run under political parties or to run as independent. So it's within their right. Number two, as NUP, the position is that once you run as an independent, you lose membership of the party as per the party constitution. And previously it has happened, but there's also a window for how people can reapply and are readmitted to the party. We are very confident that we chose the right candidates, and we believe that those candidates will win the presence of the independent candidates in the race in the different political areas, notwithstanding. We certainly cannot begrudge anybody for exercising their right to run as independents. We can only advise them as people we have had a history with, people that we have a relationship with, that you cannot only have a relationship with the party because it has given you a flag. Because if today I'm in NUP and the next day I'm in DP because the NUP has not given me a card, I think it also says so much about me than it says about the political party. Because belonging to a political party cannot be reduced to the ability to have it as your platform, as your election platform, to either become a councillor or a member of parliament. I would want to believe that the relationship that an individual has with the political party is much more than that opportunity gives him or her to gain access to a political office. But many times people behave like the only relationship they have with the political party is that it's the vehicle that will deliver them to the political office.
Let's look at the larger picture. Independence in parliament. The NRM seems to want to kick them out. National Unity Platform says you can go, but you will. What role do they play in there, especially sitting on the fence when it comes to some important business of parliament?
They actually don't sit on the fence most times. I think there are many aspects to it. Some of them I have addressed them. The others are that there are people who sometimes are dissatisfied with the internal processes of political parties.
Actually, just to add some meat, there's some members of the NRM that deliberately refused to participate in the primaries and chose that they would come for nomination, and they have been nominated.
Yeah, those ones really, I think that one is on account of many factors. For example, I know that some people here in Uganda who are NRM, but they are mindful of how unpopular it has become in the area, have chosen to run as independents. I know a minister who is running as independent in Kalungu. There are also some ministers and other NRM leaders, on account of the internal fights in the district. You find that the party chairman in the district has a problem with the prospective candidate and is therefore likely to frustrate the prospective candidate. So they choose to run as independent for different reasons without even participating in the processes. Ideally, and the debate has been that in Parliament especially, and in other forums, National Consultative Forum, the debate has been that, and the proposal has been that if you subject yourself to the processes of a political party, then you should not run as independent. But I don't think that is a position that will sail through.
Okay.
Yeah, because the members of Parliament themselves who are supposed to debate and pass this law are beneficiaries of that window, and prospective beneficiaries of that window of people being allowed to run as independents. And I know that many have argued that one of the reasons why there are people running as independents is because there are problems with the internal processes of political parties. But I think it is more than that. It is a culture of I either go to Parliament. If I don't go to Parliament, even the political party can go to hell, but I must go to Parliament. I think it is largely about that.
Wow. Dr. Sarah, let me come to you. I saw a post on X where you were questioning a document and asking if it had been smuggled into Parliament. So I want to ask you about a friend of yours, the Honorable Minister of Justice. Vied as first at the beginning of this season, vied as a president, did a launch in Gulu, put up posters. Today, we see him as vying for Peche Laro as a member of Parliament, but also the document that was leaked or verified, whatever it is, making suggestions. Does the Honorable Minister, who is in charge of the Electoral Commission, have any effect on this election? He has made many press conferences, how the season is going to be quiet, how there is this group and this group. What effect does he have on this election with his comments and everything he has done?
You know, my friend, Honorable Norbert Mao, when he crossed to NRM, and I call it crossing because I think our political parties should be bold enough and stop vulgarizing our democracy. It's already weakened by several factors. Political parties are free to form coalitions and join a ruling party for that period. So if UPC and DP are in coalition with NRM for 5 years, it is okay, and they should go and sit on that side of NRM and stop masquerading as both ruling party and opposition. The second, because they can't belong to both sides. So that's the first vulgarization of our democracy by these parties. So when he crossed to NRM, we were here on this show. It's a maiden show after becoming a minister. And he had so much promise of reforms, of release of prisoners. He had a number of issues to do the first 100 days. He was seated here. And we told him that none of those things will happen. He thought we were being sarcastic, but nothing has happened. So he has failed to do.
He was just trying to sanitize his defection.
He has failed to do the reforms he promised. And the statement,
dancing in the dark,
like the statement of the 5 versus 3, and saying the transition has already happened. I don't know whether it was the slip of the tongue or something. I think those are statements that a minister who is in charge of constitutionalism in the country, who is in charge of elections, those are some of the statements that they shouldn't be making. Whether it's true or not, those are not statements that you come to tell the public to vulgarize an institution that you supervise, vulgarize constitutionalism. We know it is on its weak knees. Yeah, but again, don't rub it in. I think really that was out of order. So the DP process, the delegates conference in Mbarara was, had challenges, really. I'm sure we all watched what was happening. Had several challenges, but he emerged a leader, and he was given the instruments to run for presidency. But I watched his speech today in Gulu. He said 2 days ago his party gave him different instructions to run for parliament. It's his right, and maybe given that he thinks the system is rigged like everybody else, maybe he decided to cut his losses, and that's what I think. Really.
What would be his effect, especially looking at the comments he has made about elections in this election? The document that you posted on X, that he looked like he signed off.
Yes.
Comments he has made about the transition already happening. There is this and that, them and us. How does that affect this election?
The document you're referring to was a motion before Parliament that endorsed the big size of Parliament, retaining all the special interest groups and the way Parliament is constituted currently. And in that motion, there was a smuggled provision of city women MPs, whereas our constitution does not mention city women MPs, because it only mentions district women MPs. There is a petition that will be decided if the court doesn't change on 27th of this month on whether it is right to have representation at the state level, yet the Constitution provides for district level for women representation and affirmative action. So we are just a few days away, like 5 days away from the court ruling, and then Parliament rushes to make that a motion where the wording contradicts the wording of the Constitution. But also, on the other hand, and I'm sure in my next tweet I was calling out to the judiciary to be sensitive and determine issues in a timely manner. If you know there is a petition regarding city women representatives, and everybody knows the current of elections, why are they holding on to that judgment? Why don't they give it priority? And this is the other weakness of judiciary, among others. There is a nomination, there is an electoral calendar announced since January. You have a petition regarding representation in parliament. Why don't you give it priority and issue a decision? Now they are waiting, the nomination is today and tomorrow, and they will issue a judgment after nomination of the same seats that are being contested. It doesn't make sense, Honorable Justice Owinyi-Doro. It is a big disservice to this country that you have rendered courts as political tools in this country.
Dr. Wakida, protecting the gains, the economy at 6%, a lot of money borrowed in the last few weeks. When you look at the NRM, you will have, as Yusuf has predicted, you will have the majority in parliament. What should people expect of you?
You see, people I think like I used to think, we've mostly misconstrued the themes these people have been developing over the years. There are many weaknesses that everybody can see within this government, even a child can see. But there are things that we must also appreciate. Unfortunately for me, I look at these things in an economic perspective. Macroeconomic stability. Even if that was the only gain that we've had, you've seen an economic trajectory that has been growing with the stable currency that we've had. Is that something that we should not celebrate about? We know countries that have suffered an inflation up to about 100%. I know that. There are things that we've seen done. I don't know where Serunkuma comes from.
Uganda.
I come from a region where I have seen signs of transition from a traditional society, and I've said this year, it's not yet enough. What we should be demanding for this country is that we need more than what you have done. But it would be wrong for us to sit here and say, you've done nothing. It used to take me, for example, about 8 hours to 12 hours to reach my home. I would be wrong to come and say, these guys have done nothing on the road infrastructure. The biggest problem is for us to expect a mature democracy in this country with how many years of independence?
63.
63. America, which has been independent with a democracy of about 249 years, since 1776, still grapples with these questions that we are discussing here. Since 1776 is about 249 years. But we're expecting a 69-year-old child to be running as though he's about 300 years old.
69-year-old child.
What we are expecting of this leadership, those guys who have been in power, is to be telling them that, wait a minute, we expect ABCD. But it will be wrong for you to sit here and say, you guys, you've done nothing. Let me tell you, this country has many problems that everybody must be focused on. They have achieved quantity education. They have achieved quantity health care. They have achieved quantity road services. What they need to do now is transit from an economic growth, which I talked about, the Rosto's transitional stage, to a qualitative life, where he talked about school dropouts. He talked about bad health care. and transit to a quality health care, quality education, quality roads where Sarah passes to go to Nabsugwe.
If you have got us here, are you the right people to get us there?
No, you see, countries are not developed by one person.
That's why I said, are you the ones to get us there?
You see, you are calling on a very wrong person. I am saying, you've gotten us here. How do we get away from here to another place?
Can you get us there?
The problem, Timothy, I'll tell you this, and I've said this to many of my colleagues, even Sarah, when we discuss, when we are together. This country should not be left to a certain people. One of my best politicians who has written is Plato. And he says this: should you ignore politics, like Serunkuma is ignoring it, you are going to be ruled.
He's here.
I am here.
You are going to be ruled.
He has not ignored.
This is a political space. Did you know?
Wait a minute. Decision space is the active verb.
You think you're going to be making decisions?
Wait a minute.
He has not learned from the example of Mao.
You see, if you had the likes of Timothy, you had the likes of my sister Sarah, you have the likes of these people. We are talking about the likes of the late Okule Park and his achievement to be able to present issues. In my language, we say, Odevo, Devo, Atundula Niki, Engoma. What that means is that every time you drum, you hit this drum, at one time you will start to see it getting a hole on it. Okay. Unfortunately, the elites of my time have turned into a critical group that talks. I was in that category. I entered the politics probably more earlier than any of you. 1996, I was a youth leader.
And you saw salvation.
I belonged to the IPFC, and I discovered that I know things. Just like, listen to Sarah. But you know, her propositions will end here. You want to go in a place of discussion and have influence whatever small you have. That's why some of us have taken that position. Serunkuma, when you hear him articulating, he has issues to raise. By the way, each one of us. The problem is that we have taken on an activist politics. Activist politics in a situation where we are. It doesn't. And let me say this.
Yes, lastly.
I want to say this. If you are going to sit here and start to discuss and expect that politics and power will be given to you on a silver platter, go and sleep. Power is competed for and it's taken. It's never given.
Okay, thank you, Doctor. Let me read 4 messages and then we'll be able to have...
but is Doctor saying
also remind
that
doctor
the people have no role in our governance?
That power is useless if you cannot
I thought power belongs to the people.
People's lives.
That's your constitution.
Shouldn't just be about power.
Power is not given.
I'm itching to respond.
Power is never given.
Before I even read the messages, I've had Benjamin, you had a response, and I go to Yusuf.
Yes, you should be reminded. That.
Okay, Yusuf, you're itching. I also see Dr. Gerard is itching.
That power is not
scratch your itch.
Cannot be used to transform
power
people's
is never
lives.
given.
Okay.
You'll be there that you have power, but power is not an end.
Timothy, first I pity this man. That he's joining this thing 40 years later. It's too late to the party. And he's struggling to sound clear and articulate. And he keeps on saying, I'm using an economic perspective, but he keeps on there and here and there. And it doesn't make sense. Because you see, he spoke about economic gains, right? But the president went to Busoga. I come from Busoga. And the man told us the poverty there stinks.
I've never seen poverty like this in my life.
Yeah, but listen,
The president-
this is the president.
Poverty is there.
The country the man has presided over for the last 40 years. He said, the poverty here stinks.
Yeah.
And then a year later, he's protecting the gains. the former Attorney General had told us, Mulago, this man spoke about health, said, Mulago, our main referral hospital is a museum piece. That's what the former Attorney General, I think it was Muliagonja, who said, that place is a museum piece. Because, and he said, look at my capacity as, I think he's a justice now of the High Court.
Supreme Court.
As a justice of
Court
the
of
Supreme
Appeal.
Court. Look at me, I go to Mulago, and I'm unable to treat my husband in that place. And then not even a year later, they are protecting the gains. And they have a new recruit in Wakida, come and tell us they're also putting the gains.
A refined economy.
And you see, I thought I should say this on air.
Okay.
Timothy, I thought I should say this on air.
Doctor, let him finish.
They keep bashing the elite that we are the problem, right? But when you listen to Wakida, you actually seem to agree that the elite are actually the problem. Because you see, Wakida obfuscates, meanders, answers a question with a question, with the entire idea of pivoting to something else. It's, you see, we've turned, because politics is meant to be a service, but we've turned it into real politics. That you see, the entire idea is how do you defeat the question? How do you pivot to something else to sort of, confuse the debate?
Okay.
And a man like Wakida, PhD,
but you see, Serunkuma, you are getting me wrong. I have said there are many challenges that exist, but there are also successes that are. You are able to walk to your home in the night. Isn't that a gain?
Look, I work in Somaliland, right? There's no government in Somalia.
No.
There's no government in Somalia. But people do this.
No.
There are roads in Somalia.
No,
basically, there's no government. You see, you're comparing us to Malawi, to Burundi,
I've been an activist like you. The most dangerous mindset is for somebody to sit and say that there is nothing that has been done.
Okay.
The
Dr.
most
Okida,
reasonable behavior.
please allow me. Lastly.
Wait, Timos, is for you to say, you've given me little, but I need more.
Okay. Allow me bring in Dr. Jared. You're each, please scratch it.
Yeah, what I wanted to dispute is the fact that if we are not into elective politics, then we're outside politics and the decision making. But through our civic organizations, while we critique the government, we also partner with government in various ways.
Okay.
Like when we started working in Parliament, Parliament did not want issues to do with transparency. So, but working with the clerk, then the Queen and others, they were able to adopt some of our systems into their M&E, so that they improve the institution of Parliament. So now, if as a country, if 10 years ago, for instance, a chief of defense forces would be summoned by a committee of Parliament, and he appear and defends himself. But today, if I see a tweet calling a Parliament a group of buffoons who I'm going to jail tomorrow, and they coil their tails, so then I know that there is a problem which we need to point out. If I see that there was electoral violence in Imbarara 20 years ago, and the Winnie Byanyima Human Rights Committee investigated, produced the report, summoned the perpetrators, and the report is discussed by Parliament and adopted. But we see this chaos, this nonsense that happened in Kawempe, and then we don't see any investigation by Parliament.
Okay.
So I have a cause to worry.
Let me read these 4 messages. I am Wilson from Gayaza. The issue is we need to lower the huge sums of Parliament so that we can be able to get quality. The Parliament turned into a pool of fishermen or traders. Okay, thank you very much. Timothy, thank you for the show. Dr. Okida tags the failure of absorption of borrowed funds, moreover the interest to delay the procurement processes. But if government through Parliament has several changes to legislation in just hours, how come these procurements and policies are still lingering? How difficult is it to change policies to fast track implementation of projects? Peter Bamba from Iganga. Okay. Lastly, this is the engineer Mugerwa Joachim, a mechanic in Deba. Thanks for bringing Benjamin Katana from National Unity Platform. He's talking about the problems of Ugandans, and we need to listen. Okay, thank you, Benjamin. About 80% of the electorate are either illiterate or semi-illiterate. The sheepish following of elections as routine without any specific issues or demands is both a government and representation problem. Therefore, we have no capacity to choose quality and representatives that have no advantage of ignorance. The remainder of 10–20% are resigned themselves a long time ago and realize they cannot change the status quo. Seems the evidence of what we are. I will give parting shots. I'll start with Dr. Sarah, Benjamin, Dr. Gerard, Yusuf, and finally Dr. Wakida, and a quick comment on what your expectations are of the 12th Parliament.
It will be more the same. I don't expect much because of the political dynamics in the country and mainly the state capture, the overreach of the executive, but also a weak leadership of Parliament that seems not to understand their job of checks and balances. As a parting shots, my message goes to the people. People should stop selling their birthright, because voting is a sovereign right. It equals to Esau in the Bible when he sold his birthright for a meal to his brother Jacob. You sell your votes for 5,000, 2,000, 10,000. You are selling 5 years of service. You will die in hospitals without medicine. You will perish on roads, bad roads, because of accidents. Your children will not study because you shortchanged yourselves for 2,000. Choose capable leaders.
Thank you very much. Benjamin, over to you.
Yeah, of course, the effectiveness or lack of it, of our parliament, depends on who will be president next year. If we are able to achieve change and we have institutions of the state, including parliament, operating in a manner they should be operating, then there's a chance for parliament to be effective. But if the status quo does not change and you have a regime that has largely been able to capture all those institutions like Sarah has mentioned here, then you cannot have parliament playing any meaningful role, because it would still be under captivity and only playing the rubber stamp role of, if you want to pass the UPDF Amendment Act, regardless of how repressive it is, you summon people, give them some money, and the next day the eyes will have it. The parting shots for me is that, like my colleague has mentioned, the citizens must know that one of the greatest inheritances as citizens is that right to participate in a process like the election. If you don't vote, you have voted in one way or the other. You have voted for the person or the party that you don't want. Because if you don't want me and you don't vote, the people who want me will come and vote. So the only way you can express your will is to participate in that process and vote.
Okay.
But the danger of voter bribery, I think, needs to be talked about and emphasized at every opportunity that we get. Because in some places, people go to a polling station and even wait to be bribed for them to be able to vote. So these are not people that tomorrow should be able to hold leaders accountable when the relationship has been transactional. You have not entrusted me with any mandate, I have bought it, then tomorrow you shouldn't be able to say we sent you to represent us in parliament. What are you doing? People are trying to make money, to repress the money they use it to bribe. Yeah, so we really need to use every opportunity to speak against voter bribery.
Thank you very much. Dr. Jared.
Yeah, in the next parliament, we are going to see, of course, the tons on one side and the half kilo on another side. Because the system has been engineered to produce a yellow majority. But in such a context, for us to benefit as citizens, we need to hear alternative voices within the ruling party. But if that does not happen, probably we may go a Cameroon where a president can stay away for 3 months and the mafias are running government. So that can potentially happen.
Thank you. Yusuf.
Timothy, I've been so hard on Dr. Wakida this entire evening, but I'm disappointed when he says, you know, Sarah's voice only matters just for the opinion of it, that Sarah has to become a politician so that to influence this country. President Jefferson was asked between media and the parliament if he had to cancel one of those things out of government, what would he do? He said without thinking, he would keep the media and kick parliament away from anywhere close to the way the country is governed. And I should tell you, Patrice Lumumba, the guy that we cherish so much, was a columnist, was a pundit a few years before becoming Prime Minister, President of Congo. So Sarah's voice, every revolution has to have its opinion leaders. It has to run with an opinion. And generating public opinion is a core component of our politics. And I think because this man is trying to join the NRM, and we know the character of people who join NRM, they lose their, you know, Wakida, we used to be in this space together. Public opinion matters so much to revolutionary struggles. The genius of Bobi Wine is that he has been an organic intellectual, a traditional intellectual for a very long time, that he has an opinion to share. This is why he's able to have traction. So generating public opinion is a core component of our political struggle. And I don't like when active politicians denigrate generators of public opinion. I will return to my appeal. In Uganda, we say, I don't want to be part of the circus. I still have to appeal to Yoweri Museveni that he has the opportunity to give this country a chance. He doesn't have to die in power. We can start negotiating the guarantees he wants to sit aside. He still has a window to go down in the books of history as a statesman by giving this country a chance. You know, when I watch the crowds Bobi Wine is gathering, I feel inside of my heart, I wish this were real. I wish this thing turned into votes, which mattered at the end of the counting. So I still appeal to Yoweri Museveni. Give us a chance. Give us a chance to, you know, renegotiate our politics without you being the main item that we think about, the security people think about, the Wakidas think about, everybody thinks about, the speaker thinks about, the judges think about before they take any decisions. Give us a chance to get off the political scene. 40 years is good enough. We thank you so much for your services. Give us a chance to rebuild without you being the only project that is active and has to be kept alive and active as a country. It's not fair that it's the peak of selfishness to govern a country for 40 years and you don't want to give it a chance to continue when you're still alive.
Thank you. Lastly, Dr. Wakida.
You know, I've listened to Seru Kubadams. I am seeing a man who wishes to attain something. Politics. And I'm going to tell you as a politician now, there is no wish. Power is fought for. Power is taken.
You're taking it.
If you sit here,
you're joining.
No, listen to me.
He's running for his first term. Speaking like as
and you narrate how you want things to be done, you have to work for it.
I am here.
That's number one. This country has a lot of things that needs to be done. One of the characteristics of a growing economy are those scattered things you're talking about. Democracy is at its infancy. Poverty is in numbers. You have unemployment. It's a characteristics all over. Bad economy and so on and so on. What we should be discussing is how do we navigate this country, this economy, to a better economy to serve our people. Let me tell you, I joined politics before you. And my wish has always been just as you say. But there comes a time when you say, okay, so we want a transition. It's a good thing, isn't it? Where do you take it from? I heard you say, I wish Bobby Wine could come up, and it could be a good thing. But I want you to be realistic. In a sense of senses, for you, you don't protect what's not there.
Okay, lastly, Doctor.
You protect what's there.
I don't know what he's talking about.
No, I'm trying to give you theoretically.
Okay. Gentlemen.
You should save him and end the show.
Gentlemen and lady, thank you very much for coming through. Dr. Gerard, special thanks for you making your maiden appearance. Thank you so much for discussing such a patent issue. To the production team for making today possible. We'll end with this quote. You are free to choose, but you are not free from the consequences of your choice. Good morning.